My 33F Fiancé 31M used to sleep with married women in his 20s. I didn't know about this heartbreaking betrayal. Now questioning our entire relationship? Hey Reddit. I honestly don't know where to begin. I've been with my fiancé, John, for 3 years, and he's always been such a caring, attentive partner. We've gone through ups and downs like any couple, but overall, I've felt incredibly lucky to have him by my side. We got engaged 6 months ago, and I couldn't have been happier until now. A few days ago, John and I were talking about our pasts. We've both shared bits and pieces before, but nothing too in-depth. This time, though, the conversation veered into territory I wasn't expecting. He casually mentioned how, in his early 20s, he had a bit of a wild streak. At first, I thought he meant casual dating or partying, but then he hesitated and admitted that he'd been involved with married women. I was shocked. I asked him to explain, and he told me that he'd been with several married women over a couple of years. He tried to downplay it, saying it was just a phase and that he didn't think much of it at the time. But he went on to explain that he felt these women were stuck in unhappy marriages and that he was just helping them feel alive again. He said he didn't view it as a big deal back then, and he thought he was doing something positive by giving them an escape. Hearing this broke something inside me. I've always believed in honesty and commitment, and this revelation just felt like a betrayal, even though it happened before we met. I told him how upset I was, and he got defensive, saying it's just part of his past and that it has nothing to do with us. But I can't shake the feeling that this speaks to his character. If he was capable of doing this then, what does that mean for us now? I keep going back and forth in my head. Am I overreacting to something that happened years ago? Or is this a legitimate red flag? I love him deeply, but now I feel like I'm seeing a side of him I never knew existed. I'm scared that this will keep festering and destroy what we've built. How do I move forward from this? Update. First, thank you to everyone who commented. The responses really opened my eyes to the complexity of this situation, and it helped me feel less alone in my confusion. A lot of you suggested having a more open, vulnerable conversation with John to really understand his mindset at the time and gauge if he's genuinely remorseful. So, I decided to try that. Last night, I sat down with John and told him I needed to understand why he made those choices. I wasn't accusatory, I just wanted the truth. He was hesitant but eventually opened up a bit more. He explained that, at the time, he was going through a rough period, dealing with some family issues and a lack of direction in his life. He said he felt unwanted and unseen by the world, and when these women came into his life, it gave him a sense of validation he desperately craved. According to him, he never went out seeking married women specifically, it just happened. I listened carefully, but I still couldn't shake my unease. I asked him if he ever thought about how he was contributing to hurting someone else's family, and he admitted that he probably should have, but that he was too wrapped up in his own issues to care. He insisted, however, that he's changed and grown since then. To be honest, his answers didn't bring me the peace I was hoping for. I understand that people make mistakes, especially when they're young, but there's something about this situation that feels different. I told him I needed some space to process everything, and he agreed to give me time. Since then, I've been staying with my sister to clear my head. Part of me wants to believe that this was just a dark chapter in his life that he's moved past, but another part of me wonders if this is a side of him that could resurface. I feel like I'm walking a fine line between forgiveness and self-protection, and I don't know which path to take. Another update. After a week of thinking things over and reading through more advice from all of you, I decided to talk to John again. I needed to know if he felt any remorse for his actions, not just for my sake, but for his own personal growth. I figured if he genuinely regretted what he did and could acknowledge the hurt he might have caused, maybe there was a way for us to work through this. I approached him calmly and asked if he felt bad about what he'd done, now that he's had time to reflect as an adult. He paused, and then, to my dismay, he said something that made my heart sink even further. He told me, I don't really feel guilty because, in my mind, those women were unhappy anyway. I was just helping them. He continued by saying that, while he knows it was wrong to get involved, he doesn't see it as a betrayal because he didn't make any commitments to those women. This response really got to me. I realized that he still doesn't fully grasp the ethical weight of what he did. I tried to explain that, regardless of his intentions, he was still participating in something that hurt other people. He shrugged and said, "It was years ago. People change. I'm not that guy anymore." But the lack of remorse, the lack of understanding, it's haunting me. Since then, I've been questioning if I truly know this person I'm supposed to marry. This is about more than just a mistake in his past, it's about his capacity for empathy and accountability. I feel like if he doesn't understand why what he did was wrong, then how can I be sure he won't make similar choices in the future? Final update. It's been a month since I first posted, and I've made a decision. After our last conversation, I took some more time to reflect. I read every comment, and the perspectives you all shared helped me see things more clearly. It became obvious that John's past actions were only part of the issue. The bigger problem was his current inability to understand or take responsibility for the hurt he may have caused. I love John, and I don't doubt that he loves me too, but love isn't always enough. I started realizing that I couldn't build a future with someone who lacks the kind of empathy and self-awareness I need in a partner. This wasn't just about the affairs anymore, it was about our fundamental values and whether or not they aligned. 2 weeks ago, I told John that I couldn't move forward with the engagement. I explained that it wasn't just his past but his inability to see why I was hurt by it. He was stunned and didn't say much, though he asked if there was any way we could work things out. I told him that I needed someone who not only understood my feelings but also shared my ethical boundaries and values. It was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had, but he accepted my decision with a heavy heart. I've since moved out and am staying with my sister while I sort things out. I won't pretend that this has been easy. I've had moments where I miss him terribly, where I doubt my decision and wonder if I'm giving up on a great person over something that might not be a big deal in the long run. But then I remind myself of the bigger picture. I want a partner who can grow, who can face difficult truths about themselves and change. And as much as I wanted John to be that person, I realized that he might not be ready for that kind of growth. I'm heartbroken but also strangely at peace. I think I've learned something invaluable about myself through all of this, that it's okay to walk away from someone you love if they can't meet you on the same emotional and ethical ground. I'll always care for John, but it's time to move forward, with a clearer understanding of what I need and deserve. Thank you to everyone who helped me navigate this journey. I don't know what the future holds, but I feel stronger and more self-assured than I have in a long time.